Is my boyfriend a victim of impersonation or am I being lied to? We live in Singapore. This happened in March and I spent the last 6 months trying to deal with the aftermath. In March, my boyfriend traveled overseas for a 1.5-week-long business trip to Taiwan. He used to make this trip 3-4x a year pre-COVID and this was his first trip back since. We had met via Bumble a year ago. He previously told me about how he used to meet quite a few people on these trips when he was single, which made me feel worried/insecure about him flying over again. So before he flew off, I sat him down and said, I know you used to meet people on these trips, but I would like some reassurance that you wouldn't be meeting anyone that I would be uncomfortable with/that you had a history with. He brushed me off, was slightly annoyed, and said that obviously he wouldn't, and that these things are unspoken rules when in a relationship. When he was away, I kept feeling very unsettled but I couldn't explain why. I'm not sure whether it was me being insecure or some sort of women's intuition. So on day 6, I finally decided to check his old phone which was still connected to his iCloud and social media. He had gotten the latest iPhone, but his old phone was still at home. What I found was the following. Instagram DM to one of his ex-flings in Taiwan, are you in Taipei? Want to catch up? Message was seen but she didn't reply. An active Bumble account, with pictures I had taken of him from a trip together, these are on his Instagram account which was public at that time, with the location showing Taiwan, with 6 to 7 active chats with girls based there, asking to meet up for drinks. The chat started the evening that he landed on Taiwan, and all mentioned that he was in Taiwan for 1.5 weeks for work. On day 3 of the trip, he had told me he was at karaoke with friends, and he was there until about 4 a.m. One Bumble chat asked a girl if she wanted to join for karaoke on that same day around 3 a.m. She asked where, and the person sent a screenshot of Google Maps showing the blue GPS dot. But the girl declined saying it was too late. I later found this Google Maps screenshot in his recently deleted camera folder and saved it. Obviously I was shocked and horrified about what I saw and didn't know how to respond. Initially I didn't plan to confront him as I wanted to do it face to face and also see how far he would go. At the same time, I felt like I would be heartbroken if anything did happen. So this was where I made a mistake. Instead of calling him and asking him to share his phone screen and checking his Bumble app on the spot, I called him and said a pretty cryptic, hey babe, remember the conversation we had just before you flew off? I just wanted to confirm that you wouldn't do anything that would hurt me, right? And my boyfriend blew up and got really angry, said that he's been making an effort to text me and call me more because he knew I felt anxious, and why did I still feel so insecure and not trust him. He felt really unappreciated for his efforts. It ended up being a very angry 45 minutes conversation. Right after we put the phone down, him angry and me hurt, I checked the phone again and find that the Bumble account has been reset, pictures from our trip removed, old picture replaced, location now says Singapore, where we live, the 6 to 7 chats with Taiwan girls have all been deleted, only leaving the old chats from a year before when we had met on Bumble. So I don't even have screenshots of these conversations because they were all gone, and I stupidly hasn't thought of taking pictures before I called him. The next day, I finally decided to confront him because I was just feeling so hurt, angry and confused, and it would another 5 days before he left Taiwan. When I confronted him saying I know what you did, I know what you've been doing, he just kept being confusing and saying he had no idea what I was referring to. When I finally told him about what I saw, he immediately denied it. What do you mean? It wasn't me, I didn't do any of that. Even after I cried, begged, was angry, he completely and categorically denied everything. Said he's been too busy with work and back-to-back meetings to be doing any of this. He wouldn't have any time at night to be meeting random girls because he needs to sleep and prepare for a whole day of meetings. When I showed him the Google Maps screenshot with the blue location dot, I asked him to send me his Uber receipt for his trip back from the karaoke place. And lo and behold, the location matched exactly. He responded with confusion and just said yes, the location matches, but it really wasn't him and he didn't send that screenshot and he has no idea why the location matches or why it was in his recently deleted folder. And that he also hadn't sent that DM to his ex-fling, reacted with confusion when I first mentioned it, said he hasn't contacted her since pre-COVID and why would he do so now? So we have this back and forth of me asking him to just tell me the truth, and him saying he is telling me the truth and he can't admit to anything because he didn't do any of it. And I am obviously distraught and trying to make sense of everything, wondering why my boyfriend would lie to me even after getting caught and even after I literally begged him to tell me the truth. Eventually, since he continued to deny doing anything and since I know what I saw, the conclusion that I came to, initially out of desperation, was that this was all the work of a hacker. Either 1. Someone had taken control of his old phone, had access to Instagram and Bumble and could use his old phone to remotely access his current phone that was in Taiwan with him and thus know/spoof his location. 2. Someone has taken control of his new phone and could remotely access and control Instagram, Bumble and Google Maps. And this hacker also knew his itinerary by accessing his email and camera roll which had screenshots of his itinerary, when he landed in Taiwan, how long he was there for, the fact that he was on a business trip. When he finally got back from the trip and we had a long talk, he again denied everything and swore on his life/his parents' lives that he was telling the truth. And he was extremely convincing, no cracks in his stories, no signs of guilt, telling me that he loves me and wouldn't hurt me, telling me that his past was his past and he wouldn't jeopardize our relationship for meaningless XYZ. And to me, if my partner were literally sobbing in pieces in front of me, I cannot imagine not telling them the truth. And so the hacker explanation was the only explanation I could think of to bridge the gap between one reality where my boyfriend is not lying to me, and the other reality where I know the things that I saw. At that time I really struggled because I loved this person immensely and couldn't imagine that they wouldn't tell me the truth, so I chose to believe him and try to move past it. But I never really got past it and it led to a lot of insecurity in the relationship afterwards. He was scheduled to go for another trip in June, but passed on that out of consideration for me, because he felt like it would trigger me. Which I was thankful for because I definitely wouldn't have been mentally prepared. But I knew it was only kicking the can down the road and sooner or later he would have to go. So a few weeks ago in August 2nd, weeks before he was scheduled to go to Taiwan, and a few other places, for a 3-week work trip, I was feeling pretty anxious in the lead up to the trip, despite me telling myself to not be, which was causing a lot of strain/tension in the relationship. I asked if I could come along for the trip saying that I wanted a free holiday, which he at first agreed to, but suddenly a week before he changed his mind and told me that he wanted to draw a boundary. He said I was tagging along for the wrong reasons, aka I wanted to check up on him and didn't trust him. And he didn't like that I masked the real reason for coming along as wanting to spend time with him instead of being honest, and why couldn't I just trust him and get over this? If I had been wanting to go for the right reasons, aka I truly wanted to tag along for a free holiday, he said he would have been more than happy for me to do so. Obviously I was upset, and said I would like to table this conversation for another day when we are both calmer and have thought things though. A few days later when I reopened the conversation, he suddenly told me that actually he's been feeling very unhappy in the relationship for a while, but didn't know how to tell me. A laundry list of reasons came out, but the main reason being that he felt overly responsible for my emotional well-being and unhappiness in a way that wasn't balanced, which I would contribute partially to emotional baggage from my childhood, but majority from the deep-rooted and nagging insecurity that never went away since the March incident. And then he said that he didn't want to continue in the relationship any longer. So I got broken up with out of the blue and am still dealing with the shock and suddenness of it all. I asked him whether the breakup has anything to do with him going to Taiwan again, and whether there's something he feels like he cannot do if I tag along, or whether he decided to break up so that he's free to do as he pleases in Taiwan now. And he vehemently denied it all, and said there is no right time for a breakup, even if I don't do it now it will happen when I'm back or eventually, so there's no point in dragging things out when I've decided. It's been a few weeks since the breakup, and he's now on his trip. Since then I've had time to think through everything that has happened and talk to friends and everyone just tells me that he was lying to me the whole time and that I dodged a bullet. Which now that I'm out from the relationship, I can see why. Probability-wise, there is a 95% chance that he did cheat and only a 5% chance that he didn't. But what I cannot wrap my head around is why couldn't he just tell me the truth? Is he a bad person or some sort of psychopath? If my partner were begging, crying, and had her self-esteem utterly destroyed right before your eyes, how could you not bear to tell them the truth? How could he live with himself? How could he look me in the eye and tell me that he loved me? And when we are together it's so easy to believe that he's telling me the truth. He is so sweet and attentive to me and his family, and I cannot reconcile that there is this sweet, sensitive, and gentle version of him that I loved, and a part of me still loves, and that there might be another version of him that is so heartless and callous, that can live knowing that he hurt me so badly and can't bring himself to admit and apologize. And my mind entertains the what if that 5% is real, what if he is really truly telling me the truth, And all this happened because I couldn't bring myself to just trust and believe him, even though this whole time he never lied to me or betrayed me. Comment. He cheated. Or was at least trying to cheat on you. Move on, you dodged a bullet and most likely instead. You deserve better. Too bad you didn't break up with him when he cheated. Don't believe anyone's BS stories, and going forward raise your expectations. He's looking to cheat or has cheated. Move on and find someone who meets your needs. You will never trust him again, no matter how many pretty lies comes from his mouth. It's honestly better finding out now instead of 5 years down the road. And it's still going on. Remember, apps can be downloaded just as fast as they are deleted. Next story 2. I almost got my former roommate deported. Back in 2014, I got accepted into the Disney college program. I was assigned 3 other roommates and worked there for 8 months per the original offer or contract or whatever. One of the apartments we were put in was designated as a non-alcohol building. We would have random inspections with a 24-hour notice. It didn't matter how old you were. If alcohol was caught in your apartment, all of your roommates including you could get kicked out of the program and sent home within 2 days. Another one of the rules was we could not make spare keys for safety reasons. It was a great time and I loved working there until we got a 5th roommate. We were aware that this could happen during our time at the college program, so we dealt with it. Our 5th roommate was a guy from Italy. Let's call him Gabe. I believe he was 19-21 YRS. I want to start off by saying that I was welcoming to a new roommate. I was making a lot of friends from different countries while working at Disney, and I thought this was a great opportunity to make another international friend. I'll admit that I thought Gabe was cute. An average height himbo with black hair and that Italian stache lol. Alas, he was straight and real popular among the female cast members. Being a young Italian guy in Orlando will get you pretty much anybody. Very quickly I learned that Gabe was not a decent guy. He was one of the kind of straight guys who would go to a gay club to find other straight women. I know this because I was invited to the club where he ditched me and I never saw him again that night. He would always say that he is from Venice, Italy, but in reality he lived in one of the towns outside of it. From then on, I didn't want to hang out with him and I was happy to leave it at that. A few weeks goes by and I'm starting to get really annoyed with Gabe. Multiple times, I would hear him and whatever girl of the week he's having sex with in the living room on the singular couch that we all shared. It was very thin walls and I could hear everything from my bed. He would bring cans of beer to the apartment and just leave them there for days. We managed to throw away the cans before inspection time, but it was the last thing he did that set me on this petty revenge path. One day I was at our apartment, relaxing and playing video games like I normally would. The front door opens and I pause the game to see who is coming in. When I realize that it's a random girl and not any of my male roommates, I start yelling, "Who the hell are you?" She was just as surprised as me to see that someone was in the apartment. She gets flustered and says that Gabe sent her there to grab his phone charger. I notice that she is also one of the foreign cast members like Gabe because her English wasn't fluent. I told her Gabe didn't tell any of us that she was coming to the apartment. I text Gabe and tell the girl to go ahead and grab the charger, but give me the spare key she was given. She walks out and Gabe eventually replies and confirms her story. At this point I'm furious because any of these girls could have walked into the apartment and stolen something and we would never know who it was. So I text my original roommates, let them know what he's done, and what I'm about to do. I remember that Gabe left a can of alcohol in the fridge and I take a picture of it. Perfect. I take the spare key up to the security gate to let them know what had happened and show them the text saying it's a spare. At this time I didn't know that he could possibly be deported because this would interfere with his work visa. I didn't care. I just wanted him out of the apartment. A day passes by and I see Gabe back at the apartment. He doesn't say anything. He just grabs a few clothes and leaves again. The day after that, I get a call from the college program counselors, asking me to come and formally tell them about Gabe. I didn't go into specifics about the girls he slept with and other behaviors. I just gave them the straight facts and evidence. It turned out that was enough. Per the rules of the program, Gabe had 2 days to get his stuff together and vacate the premises. I remember coming home from work on his last day. He was busy packing things and had help from some girl he was with. It was not the same one he had given the spare key to. When he noticed me in the room, he stared daggers at me and only talked to the girl in a different language. I don't know whether it was Italian or Spanish. I go into my room and stay there until they leave. I was worried he would take the opportunity to beat me up and leave without a trace. I felt bad that he would have to pack up and leave the country in such a quick time. On the other hand, I would be rid of a roommate that could have ended all of my roommate's program early. About a week later, I find out that he is living it up in Miami and was not deported after all. 2 weeks after that, we got another roommate from Brazil. He turned out to be pretty chill until the end of my time with the program. So that's how I almost got my former roommate deported. Edit, this is my first long post on Reddit. I didn't expect to see it get this many upvotes. It's scary and exciting, but mostly scary. I see leaving out some things and wording things a certain way will give the wrong impression. That's my bad. This is Reddit and you gotta give the full scope. I'm gonna try to clear up some things to give a bit more context. I didn't mean to sound so jealous of Gabe. I wasn't jealous of him at all actually. I was a young gay guy just coming out in Orlando from a small town. There were plenty of gay guys that I was more interested in than Gabe. Too busy crushing on guys I was actually trying to talk to. I don't mean to shame him for whoever he would bring to the apartment either. I was hooking up with guys too, just not bringing them back because I respected my other roommates and our space. Gabe was given warnings about the cans he would bring back, but that didn't stop. This is only my side of the story, but there were 3 other roommates who also had problems with him. Before I went to security, I asked my OG roommates about what to do and the decision ended up being report him, and I did it. I can only speak on what my experience was with him. If I had known/realized that he could be deported, I wouldn't have gone through with it and just dealt with his antics. Looking back on it now, that was definitely a bitchy thing to do. I'm not proud of it, but not fully ashamed either. I was a young and dumb black 19-year-old who was a bit sheltered. It was my first time miles away from home, embracing my sexuality for the first time, and meeting people I would normally never meet. I definitely got a bit wild while I was there. It took a while for me to relax and not be so anxious about things. It didn't matter where he was from for me. He was being an inconsiderate roommate and breaking the rules, putting me and my other roommates at risk. Simply that. Comment. I'm with you op, his carelessness could have taken you all down, you did the right thing. I do think it's funny to include that he said he's from Venice but he's actually from a town near Venice. Like if I'm from Yorba Linda, I'd probably just say I'm from LA if I'm talking to someone not from there, because it's easier than teaching a stranger a mini geography lesson and still gets the point across. Yeah, I usually start with north of the LA area and they usually press for more and I get a blank stare when I mention Ventura County. It's between Santa Barbara and LA, oh. But you can tell they had no idea anything is sandwiched in between. Husband grew up in North Hills, you know, where that really bad earthquake happened in the 90s. The city Venice is located in the province of Venice that is located in the region of Veneto. Beautiful place. I recommend everyone go there at least once in their life. I live in a town that a lot of people aren't familiar with. If I'm talking with someone that doesn't know the area, I use the name of the well-known town that is 5 miles away. Sometimes the state name too, since there are 15 other goddamn Fayettevilles in the US. Same here for the 3 different areas I lived. Always said the closest major city. If whoever I was talking to said they from the same area, then it'd get more specific. That wouldn't bother me. The alcohol wouldn't bother me as long as they took care of it or were fine with it being dumped. 24-hour notice is a nice heads up. But making a spare key and giving it to randos is a huge nope. I had a roommate that never locked our dorm room door. Got pissed every time she got locked out and had to get the RA to let her in. It's not hard to lick the door and take the key with you. She said that she had friends stop by and wait for her. I still locked the door.